have voices brave. Welcome to the crew we made. Ready now, turn the page. This is where we all engage. Engage. Let the journey begin.
Welcome to Engage
with Trekkie
and Trekker. This is the show that boldly explores the fans behind the Star Trek fandom. And today we have another exciting guest for you today that we're pleased to meet and chat with. Welcome to the show, Kerry.
Hey, Kerry.
Hey guys, nice to be here.
How's it going? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I live here in Oklahoma City. I'm pretty much a lifelong fan of Star Trek, and have connected with a lot of folks through the Star Trek community, and specifically, I think you guys, we found you through the Star Trek cruise. And but yeah, I like I said, live here in Central Oklahoma, hold down a regular job and whatnot. But yeah, in my spare time, I do like to geek out a little bit on some Star Trek. So yeah.
Nice. Well, that's good because you're in a safe space for geeking out on Star Trek.
Talk about it for hours and hours. Well, Kerry, you had mentioned lifelong Star Trek fan. Just out of curiosity, if you recall, how did you get into Star Trek?
Yeah, so for me, I know that the first memories I have of watching and getting into Star Trek were when I found it, the original series and reruns in syndication when I was in middle school. And so I know at one point that became kind of a routine for me. I'd come home from school, turn on the TV, and that would be on. I don't know, why. I mean, if I was their target demographic or whatever, because usually after school stuff is cartoons or whatever. But yeah, I just know that there was this time where I found out that I could come home and, TOS reruns would be on. So I remember, getting, interested and starting to, kind of be interested in Star Trek then. I mean, I've always been a sci-fi fan in general, from the time earliest memories as a kid. I mean, all the, there's cartoons and anime shows and everything that I'd watch were all, kind of sci-fi stuff. And so this was, an instant, kind of interest for me. And then that was about the time, though, it was right before I think TNG actually aired for the first time. And so it wasn't long after that, because I got interested in TOS, and that was just kind of this is kind of cool. But then once TNG came on, and it was brand new, and it was I think it was around the beginning of high school for me, and then I just got completely into that and followed that from all through high school and my early college years, and that was kind of how I got into it.
Nice. That's kind of a cool period that you were getting into it just before TNG came out, because
I'm old enough
time to already be kind of knee deep in the fan base, and then wow, new show, and yeah. Now, since you were already watching TOS, I've got to ask, a lot of people had a hard time when they watched TOS first, adjust to TNG. Was that your case as well, or was it just pure excitement?
Not at all. I mean, because, even, as you know, even the first, by comparison, if you watch them today, I mean, the first episodes of TNG were, kind of rough in some ways, but I didn't notice, at that time. It was I just loved it.
Yeah.
And it's only in retrospect, having been spoiled by all the, the later kind of increases in storytelling and quality and production and everything, that you look back at it now and, it looks the way it does, but I still love it. But yeah, so no, at the time, it was not a hard adjustment at all. I remember actually I was so excited about it. I remember my best friend and I, we would just sometimes sit around in his bedroom and pre-internet, just trying to find things to do. We would turn on a tape recorder and we would just do improv stuff, and we would just start with a premise. And I remember doing Data and Picard and Star Trek stuff, and even just on those recordings. I wish I still had them, but yeah, I remember.
Oh, I was about to say, can you share?
Yeah.
Out of all the Star Trek that you've consumed, what's your favorite character?
Yeah, and that's a lot of Star Trek and a lot of characters. So that's I think that's sometimes a tough question. And I think for me, the obvious answer is, I don't know, kind of boring, because I always come back to Picard as the guy.
Yeah.
He, in the end, I think, other than just Patrick Stewart being a tremendous actor and just being engaging to watch, I think the character really best, kind of embodies in one person all the ideals of, the Federation and, Star Trek, et cetera. But so that's kind of the obvious answer. But if you ask me, if this person comes on the screen, who is the most oh, now I'm interested, I'm kind of sitting up in my chair and I'm really enjoying myself watching Star Trek. I think it has to be Q,
Okay.
because John Delancey does such a great job of just kind of like stealing every scene and just being so charismatic and just so fun to watch in pretty much every episode he's in, even though he's not like a regular character. He just, comes back from time to time. I really enjoy almost every episode that he's a part of, regardless. So yeah, just from a pure like just geeking out as a fan, perspective, it has to be like I would have to say Q, but like Picard is the guy, So
The
yeah,
guy.
that's
I
right.
was gonna say that my character, like, that always steals the scene. Like the moment I get, ooh, I'm gonna be so excited whenever I saw that Guinan was gonna be on that episode. Like, the
Yeah, no,
credits,
that's a good
and I
one. Yeah,
always got jazzed
you always
up
know
and be
it's
like,
going to be
okay,
something
it's
good.
gonna
Like something's going to go down when Guinan's prominent. Yeah, so yeah.
exactly. There's gonna be a moment when she's sharing something deep, and it's gonna make my like goosebumps go, and so
Yeah.
I always like that. As far as characters go, and that was a favorite character. What about episodes or movies?
So this one for me is pretty easy because this episode has been a standout, like head and shoulders above all the others for me, like forever. It's the Inner Light. I mean, it's the one where, Picard lives this whole other life, learns to play the flute and, all this stuff. And you look up just about any, internet list of best, Star Trek episodes. It usually makes the list somewhere, if not near the top or at the top. And I feel like it's well deserved. Like that episode for me is just like every time I watch it, like I get emotional, like watching that episode. I mean, it's just, I think it hits for me because for a lot of reasons, like science fiction. I think when science fiction is doing what it does best, when it's at its best, it's like it gives us this lens that we can look at different facets of the human condition through this story. And I think this episode does this so well because, Picard is thrust back into this life that's not his, but then he lives, all of the joys and the sorrows and, just the challenges and the ups and downs of this entire lifetime. And then he's sucked back into the future. So he's got suddenly distance that is, both separated by time and space. And then he's looking back on all of this. And it just makes you think about, like, what do all the moments of my life mean? What do all the moments of all of our lives as humankind mean when you get this kind of like perspective? Like, you can see it like from here, like what does it mean all in the vast tapestry of time and space? It's like astronauts when they go into space, they talk about this overview effect when they see the Earth, for the first time. And I kind of imagine this episode, or I imagine this episode, it feels a little bit like what they feel, because suddenly you have this perspective that is away from everything, and you're like, I can just put this all into instant context. And so it really hits a lot of levels for me. So yeah.
No. Yeah.
I
It's almost like it's that
also,
one.
yeah, I love that episode. I love that. And I think I've shared on this show before that one of the things I've thought through is how Picard's time there would allow him to emotionally wrestle with all the things like being assimilated by the Borg, even like all those things that he has in his past. Like this gives you an entire lifeline to like process some of that, and just a very cool moment to then just be back into your normal life. And so yeah, that one is definitely high on.
And as
the
awesome
list.
as that one is, it's always funny now because I saw again like I think it was a meme or something like that where it shows Picard talking to O'Brien. He's like, hey, the coolest thing just happened. I got to live a whole lifetime in 20 minutes. O'Brien's like, that sounds awesome. I hope that happens to me someday. And then you're like,
No, don't do it. That prison episode in Deep Space Nine was rough. So
I
yeah.
know.
Oh, that's fun. That's funny, Kerry. I never thought about the two of them
Well, I didn't
together.
either until I
But
saw
that's
that. I mean, that's
exactly
not
what
my idea.
happened.
That's just something I saw on the internet. But I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh yeah,
no,
they did do the same
that's
thing.
funny.
They went to a much darker place. Orion needs perpetual therapy for the rest of his life.
Right. That's so funny. That's so funny. Goodness. Kerry, if you had an invention that from Star Trek that has not already been created, what would you choose and why?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So I've watched some of the previous episodes, and I think there have been some great answers here. So, the replicator because it ends scarcity, and the transporter because, obvious reasons and so forth. And so I love those. But as I was thinking about this one, I landed on that I've always wanted to be able to time travel. I think it'd be such a cool thing. I would think if you could make the Guardian of Forever, I would be so ecstatic, because like being able to go just back in time and see any period in history would be just so incredible, for selfish reasons, just because it would be fascinating. And, I was thinking about like all of the humanitarian benefits of all these other inventions, and like, why would I pick the Guardian of Forever? Just so I could go back and be curious about, what it was like in whatever time period. But as I was thinking about it, I was like, it could be really, really useful, because being able to see like unfiltered, unvarnished history without like the historian's, spin on it or whatever, and being able to just go back and verify like this is what really went down, would I think be such a great tool, because we would have, at any point that we wanted, we would have a clear, if we wanted a view of. Now, that's not to say that even like in real time people don't spin facts or events in this way or that way, but at least it would give us the option to go back and like see, hey, this is what really, really happened, and that could really inform what we're doing in the present, and how how we behave or whatever. Because I mean, we get the narrative of history by whatever the historians told us, but this would be like such an empowering tool, I think. So that would be really cool.
I
That would
really
be.
like that.
Yeah. What time period would you go to first?
Man, that's an interesting one. I think I wouldn't go back probably as far as you might think. I think it would be, I think the most burning curiosity I have would be to just go back to, say, the 70s,
Okay.
and just see what the environment of my own childhood looks like, and how it compares to my own impression of my own childhood. Yeah,
That would
be
be different too,
interesting.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
so just to see kind of what that was really like versus like how my brain holds that, right now.
Mhm.
And because I lived through that time as a kid, at least, it's one I can like viscerally compare. And so like if I were to go back in prehistoric times or whatever, like nobody knows, what that was like anyway. So, but yeah, I think that'd be what I'd do first, but I would want to go to all of them. Like,
Sure. I was
check
just
it all
curious,
out,
like
man.
very first
Yeah.
time you're turning on the machine. Like, I think for me, if I was creating the machine or involved with the creation of it, I'd be a little nervous that what happens if I accidentally go too far back in time. So I might like aim for just yesterday and just like, let's test it first.
Sure. Yeah, of
Let's
course.
go
Yeah.
back an hour just to make sure it works good. And then once that goes, then we'll start talking about further out.
Exactly. Yeah. And I wouldn't even necessarily want to go back and
Thought about
change
that. I
anything.
mean,
I
it's
just
your,
want
it's,
to like
I mean,
observe
honestly,
and
it's like
see.
you would be your own little historian going back and then taking
Could be.
notes. So
Mhm.
yeah, I could dig that,
I don't
Kerry.
know.
So let's get on that, sir. I need to know some history for fact. So
Somebody invent
Trekking,
this.
would you change anything in time if you had that? Kerry said he would not.
so that's quite the the quandary there is, it's the like the what they call the butterfly effect.
Mhm.
How impactful can it be down the line? So if I had the opportunity where there would be no paradox, no repercussions, heck yeah, there's some things I
I was
would
gonna
change.
say,
Yeah.
screw the temporal accords. I'm pulling a
Right.
Janeway card. We're gonna make things better.
There's something to be said for that. I mean, I could definitely see that argument. I could be persuaded either way. I guess I was just thinking about it in terms of like not getting into all the philosophical conundrums of it, just
Right.
the awe of being able to see what happened. But yeah, like if you go and back and make some changes, I don't think most people are naive enough to think that, oh, this isn't going to result in some other timeline that's
Yeah.
going to have
Mhm.
negative things. But yeah, I mean, you would probably just work with the information you had at the time. If you could prevent some of the the tragedies of the past, then yeah, who
Mhm.
wouldn't do that? So
Or even doing things like, I think it would be neat to like go back in time by, I don't know, 40 years or so, plant a couple trees and then go back to see them real big.
See
Like that
For
would
sure.
be neat.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I just planted
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, there could be a lot of cool aspects of that invention. So yeah, I think it'd be awesome.
Okay, so time travel. I like that.
Mhm.
I like that. Yes. And
Mhm.
those were such interesting episodes with that. What I'm blanking on the name of it again, on the edge of tomorrow, but what is it called? The Guardian?
The Guardian of Forever.
Yes, the Guardian of
Okay,
Forever. Yes.
I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. I
Yeah.
mean,
And
Yeah,
that was
now I'm
not
second
just
guessing
time, but
myself, but I
time
think it is.
and space. So you could go to different planets, and so that would be a good one for sure. It's
Yeah.
not. Are they the same as the Iconians then?
No.
Or
Well, so okay, so and Kerry,
related?
correct me if I'm wrong. They should. I believe that they're two distinct. I
I
don't
think
believe
they
the
always have been.
Iconians.
Yes.
Yeah, that similar concept, but
But could they be like offshoots of each other? Because it's very similar. Like
very quite
they have
possible.
one part of the technology that the Iconians use. They
Well,
just
I
have the
mean,
time part.
based on the episode Progenitors, we're all connected. I mean,
That's true.
so
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, realistically, so
I saw that, and I saw a funny meme that was saying that the Progenitors use Jeffrey Combs' DNA in
Yeah.
it, and that's why you see so many
Right.
aliens.
I
Yes,
do.
it's like good. Yes.
that is funny.
There's another actor that always steals the scene when he's on screen. Yeah, so yeah, I love
He's-
Jeffrey Combs.
He's just believable in everything he is. Like instantly, I'm not thinking here's a human dressed like an Andorian on Enterprise. He's an Andorian. Like he just is. He's just like he embodies it. Yes. Okay. How about moments in Star Trek that just turned your mind, blew your mind? Like whoa.
Yeah, so I am a huge fan of like surprise endings and twist endings and stuff like that. So if you're talking about just plot wise, where I'm watching and I'm like, this reveal is really unexpected and mind blowing. I mean, I think the one that I go back to is the end of Star Trek: The Motion Picture. You know, where they find out, V'ger's Voyager. Sorry, spoiler. But yeah, I really remember the first time I watched that being, just that was kind of jaw dropping, at the moment. I thought it was such a cool thing. I loved that, that twist at the end. But as far as like impact, I think the thing that blew my mind and continues to blow my mind every single time I watch it, it's not like plot driven. It's really just acting. And say what you will about William Shatner, and he's he's got his mannerisms or whatever, but man, at the end of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, when Spock dies, and he basically, the way he shows emotion in those couple of scenes, like when Spock's actually behind the glass and he just says no, the word no, when Spock actually kind of slumps down, and then during the funeral, when he delivers that line that says, of all the souls that I've encountered in my travels, his was the most human, and he has that quaver in his voice when he says the word human, like that gets me literally every single time. It blows my mind every single time. That like, I mean, it's surprising because that's, to me, that's like, those are a couple of like some of the best acting moments in all of Star Trek. And he's typically not like the person who comes up when people talk about like fine acting in Star Trek, but it blows my mind every time, and because it hits every time.
That's definitely an intense emotional moment. One that clearly resonated with a lot of people, since that's still always rated as one of the top movies. And it's certainly a moment. And a lot of people don't realize this, but those two are best friends, or were best friends even in real life. I'm just kidding. I'm so kidding.
I was like, wait a minute,
I'm
what?
just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I might have missed that one.
I'm just kidding. So sorry. Sorry. I was just remembering how he didn't go to his funeral, and I was like, oh.
Which means the acting was even that much better.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
Good job, Gary.
Yeah.
Whew. Yeah, that's funny. That's funny.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I hear you on that. It's interesting if you think about that, how like you pulled that off.
Well, and the
Yeah.
simple fact is, I mean, it's well known that, that all of the TNG folks, they love each other and adore each other. And then you got an offshoot of the TOS that, some folks, don't necessarily want to be in the same area as others. So,
Yeah.
So
It's one of those things. I think that happens on a lot of shows, and it's
does.
for the most part, I think it's probably unusual for everybody to just kind of get along and not
Get
have
along.
any
Absolutely.
sort
I
of
mean,
like
you think of
personality
any
conflicts or
workplace.
whatever.
Humans are humans. We're going to have conflict because that's what humans are. But the cool thing is when humans can surmount that, work together,
Yeah.
go around it, embody those Starfleet ideals. And
Yeah, a great
and-
example of that is like, I think in Voyager, because
Yes.
when they brought Seven of Nine in, and Kate Mulgrew famously has talked about how she felt, and then how she came around, and like how how that all kind of worked out. So yeah, it's
Right.
it's good to
And
see.
you just hit on a prime example where I didn't know anything on my end of the television screen that there was any animosity towards each other or anything in that scenario at all. Like it wasn't until a few years ago, actually, on a Star Trek cruise, when I was hearing other people talk about it, I was like, oh, really? I didn't know there was beef there. Like,
Yeah.
wow. So they did a great job acting right through.
Yeah,
Just
and
like
obviously Kate Mulgrew is another incredible actor. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, I agree. If you guys have not, Manions in America with Pierce Brosnan was an awesome miniseries.
Cool.
That was actually how I was introduced to Kate Mulgrew even before
Neat.
Captain Janeway.
You
Was
know, that's
Manions
something
in
I probably have to
America.
check out because
and
I
then I went
really
back
don't
and
remember.
watched Ryan's Hope because she was on, Ryan's Hope as well. So
Okay.
She was on an old episode of Dallas, a couple episodes of
Mhm.
Dallas, as like a country singer. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
It was really
yeah.
funny. Yeah.
Wow.
I
I
was-
had no idea.
I was rewatching Dallas a few years back ago, and when I got to some of those episodes, like, get out of town. Captain Janeway's a country singer.
Right.
Love it.
Yeah, Trekkie, I might have to check that out because I not come to think of it, I don't think I've seen Kate Mulgrew in anything significant outside of Star Trek, and that'd be actually really interesting to watch.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Like I said, I've got Irish heritage and stuff, but yeah, it was a mini series. I want to say back in the late '70s, early '80s, but I might be wrong on that. But it was right after her time on Ryan's Hope,
Okay.
and then I also saw "Don't Throw Mama from the Train." Don't know why that's in my head, but she was
She's in
she
there
was in
too?
that too.
She's in
She
that
was
movie?
yeah.
I've
Yeah,
heard of it. I've
anyway,
never seen it.
Is
Okay.
that Danny DeVito in that movie?
No, Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, was
And
it? Okay.
People get them mixed up all the time,
Oh.
Kerry.
Yeah.
Estelle Getty,
Yeah.
Sophia off of Golden Girls.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of
Interesting.
something different.
Yeah, yeah. So
Hmm.
anyway, just the little things, TBS back in the day where it would play, stuff all day long. So just
Mhm.
that's my special power is the useless knowledge of television that I've only seen once, so or maybe twice, but
Go neurodivergent brain.
Honestly, I'm always in awe of people who can just recall like facts like that,
Yeah.
especially in the context of discussions like this. I've got some friends like that that are Star Trek friends that just they can just
Pop things
and
out.
wow, you guys you have the entire encyclopedia of Star Trek at your disposal at any time you want it. Kind of jealous.
Yeah, sometimes we just relive episodes in our brain because we
Yeah,
don't
that's-
need the actual TV.
right. That's exactly right.
Yeah, my brain works the opposite. Like, and Corey, my wife, and I talk about this all the time, how details will happen, but then my brain tends to like roll them up into like a summary format. And it's like, I just remember kind of the gist of things. And I'm like, if you ask me like specific details later on, I couldn't tell you, even if my life depended on it. I just kind of know what the overall thing was. So yeah, I envy that in people.
Well, we can trade half and half, Kerry.
There
Yeah,
you go.
for real.
Well, Kerry, you kind of laid something down, and it's a great segue for us for our next question. How has Star Trek shaped your life and or worldview?
Yeah, that's a good one. So like I said, I came to Star Trek and I started getting into Star Trek when I was pretty young. And I think for a long time, I think for me, it was pretty much just entertainment. I just loved science fiction. This was some good science fiction. It was entertaining. But then I got to a point where later in life, especially recently, especially in the last 10 years, I've come much more to appreciate it for Star Trek ideals and, the Star Trek community and so forth. So, for instance, my wife, Corey, and I, we bonded over this when we first met, when we both found out that we like Star Trek. We ended up actually watching all of Star Trek together, every single episode, over the course of a couple years. And so that was a huge kind of bonding thing for us. And since then I've met so many amazing people in the Star Trek community that it's just been, it's much more of like, kind of a core, I guess, part of who I am, just because so many of the people in my life love Star Trek and they buy into Star Trek ideals. And yeah, so it's definitely special in that way.
Nice. Yeah. And again, as you had mentioned before, we all have met on the cruise, and we continue to grow each and every year. We continue to grow, our group of folks. I mean, because there's just no way to be able to truly speak with everybody on there. But I've noticed that, and I think, Kerry, are you guys on year 3 as well? Like this was your 3rd year?
This was our 2nd year.
Okay,
And
second
so
year.
we
Okay.
will be, the next one will be our year 3. So, but yeah, it's already going to be, we've already decided that this is non-negotiable. Like it's the highlight of our year and we're going to be here, every time. So yeah, but yeah, so as far as how, I feel like early on it was more superficial and now it's like come for the aliens and the space battles and stay for the ideals and the community, kind of thing. So yeah.
Well, and it's cool and kind of I think if they keep doing the cruise at the end of February, I mean, you'll get to celebrate your anniversary, on each
Yes,
one of
yes,
them,
we
which is
will.
which
So
is
Right.
it's
awesome.
really going to be,
So
something special to look forward to every year now because
yeah,
of, having our wedding
Mhm.
ceremony on the last cruise, which was
right.
just amazing. And it was amazing because so many, it wasn't amazing because of us. It was amazing because so many people on the cruise made it amazing and just, yeah, we're incredible.
That's
That's really
awesome.
awesome. Okay, so what about new Star Trek? If you were to develop your own new concept for a show, what show would you, as Kerry, want to see or develop?
Yeah, so this one is interesting because I was oddly enough, I was like at a concert a few weeks ago and I noticed these guys who were the band, they're one of those bands who kind of have their own sort of mythos around them. They dress in costume, they have this
Okay.
fictional backstory, etc. And I was just thinking about like, what would it be like if you could create something like that? And I was like, this could fit in to there was something about like their backstory and their mythos. I thought it could fit into um, the sort of prehistory of Star
Mm,
Trek. So like, and I thought, and when I thought about that, I was like, this would be interesting. If like if you go into the like the post-nuclear horror, like the
mhm.
pre-Cochrane,
Mhm.
just
Yeah,
pre-Cochrane,
yeah.
times before First Contact and all that. For much,
That's what I was
Right
just
now.
doing. I was like, it's
Yeah,
the '60s, right? Yeah,
right, yeah. So like as far as like dates on the calendar,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So, but yeah, I thought these are really dark times, and
Mhm.
it's like humanity's really struggling, and so it'd be interesting to like follow like maybe a group of people who they do hold these ideals, and they're kind of like the kernel of what the
Mm,
Federation might become one day, but they're fighting against all these sort of
human factions.
environmental
Mm,
challenges, but also there's a lot of evil people doing a lot of
yeah.
evil things during this time. I think there's like a Colonel Green in that history who's like some kind of genocidal maniac and stuff like that. So I could see them uh kind of like just struggling to fight the good fight and keep the light alive, so to speak, during these times.
Mhm.
And then but also the thing that kind of occurred to me that would make this really interesting is like if you gave it sort of a Lovecraftian
hmm
vibe almost. And I could see like Q being behind this, but because there's no first contact or whatever, but he's always had this fascination with humanity. And he's always, even though he tends to be kind of an adversary, oftentimes he ends up like putting his thumb on the scale
right.
in favor of humanity, like either, surviving a challenge or even continuing to exist or, whatever. And I could see him like sort of like taking a part, not a really active part, but just being there as an influence, like a faceless influence, helping these guys, sort of survive these dark times. I don't know. It was an interesting idea. What's funny to me is like when Star Trek, to me, is at its best. It's like the classic episodic Star Trek where you encounter an issue, and in pure science fiction, you know. Uh, style. You explore that and then you bring it to a conclusion in an episode and it kind of leads to a lesson or observation
Mhm.
or something like that. And this would not be that at all. So
Right.
I wouldn't think that I would gravitate to this because this would be more of like a serial drama thing, I think, than anything. But I just feel like it would be kind of compelling. And I think it could be almost like maybe an allegory of how I feel like a lot of people are starting to feel like in our real world today. Like, and
Sure.
it would be just, I think it would kind of hit, as far as just like giving people like hope in terms of like this good versus evil, darkness versus light kind of struggle, kind of
That
thing.
despite that there are bad, there's still good, and we're
So
still
good.
moving forward, and we don't have to lose hope.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that kind of a messaging for sure, because we
Yeah.
definitely need that. It's one of the things I did like about the original concept for Star Trek, kind of showcasing this idealized version of humanity all working together, and
Mhm.
we are beyond the things we divide ourselves up for in this current day and age. And so I like having that kind of a vision ahead of time. And
Mhm.
even if they are walking through something rough, just knowing that there's people like that Picard effect that just embody that
Mhm.
Starfleet and keep moving forward, like that is helpful. I would dig that. I would dig that a lot. You've
I would as
mentioned
well.
Q a few times, so I'm kind of curious. If you had Q powers, would you influence things directly and let them know you're there as a Q, or would you do things more like secretive, like behind the scenes? They don't know you're there.
Yeah, so I think it would be almost like a prime directive kind of thing for me if I were to, like, if they're aware enough to know that beings like a Q might exist and understand that and not, think of me as some sort of supernatural god
Mhm.
or something like that, then sure, you could come to them more on, crystal clear terms. But if they were, like the time period we're talking about, pre-first contact, and they don't understand, or they're not aware of even other beings in the galaxy, then yeah, definitely I would think at that point it would be a much more hands-off approach, almost like the what was it, the duck blind approach
Oh,
they were taking in
yeah.
the
Well,
movie.
not the Baku, but the I want to call it Montauk or something
Yeah.
like that.
It wasn't the
Yeah,
Baku?
I
Oh, it
can't
was
remember
the
which one.
other.
It's
Oh, right.
Insurrection,
Uh-huh.
Star Trek Insurrection, right?
Oh, okay. So with the Baku, okay, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah. Which,
Yeah.
was very similar to that episode of Next Generation where they also had a duck blind. Yeah. Who Watches the Watchers, I think it was called.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah,
And
for sure.
Soji, yeah.
Yeah.
Which
So.
does beg the question, why, if you're following the Prime Directive, would you build a super high technological cave to hide out on their planet that could at some point get discovered?
Right. Yeah. The Prime
Okay.
Directive gets broken a few times throughout.
We're just going to acknowledge that sometimes there's some admirals that okay things that probably shouldn't have gotten a rubber stamp. Somebody said, hey, how about picture this? We put our own little room on their planet. No one will know. It's fine. That didn't turn out well
No.
in either scenario.
No. Yeah. So most of the time, this doesn't end up being a great idea.
Well, and now that begs the question that I know that we're not allowed to have cloaking devices on ships, but that's pretty
I
much
just
cloaking
thought
device. I was just so again, sorry, it's sending me down the rabbit hole of I wonder how that actually would play out. And
Yeah,
why we were
because
able
they
to have
cloaked.
that
Yes.
cloaking technology as opposed to obviously on the ship. So
Right.
anyway,
Mhm.
all right.
These ethical quandaries.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's why
That's
I
why
love
it's
these
great to sit around and talk about
conversations.
Star Trek.
Yeah,
Exactly.
right. Goodness.
All right, we ready for pew 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 pew? Laser fire. Okay, I got a few different questions for you, Kerry. This is: would you rather be an ambassador to the Cardassians or the Romulans?
Oh, interesting. I think it would be the Cardassians, because I don't know. I think that the Cardassians are a much more, I don't know, political people. I think as an ambassador, you could probably have a much better effect with the Cardassians. And I feel like the Romulans are a lot more inflexible and they're a lot more nefarious. They don't. And then, I mean, the Cardassians obviously are not always forthcoming and straightforward, but I feel like the Romulans just have this ingrained secretiveness and dishonesty about them oftentimes. And the Cardassians can be like that, but also sometimes they'll just wear it on their sleeve too. So, I mean, yeah, I think I would probably rather be an ambassador to the Cardassians, just because I think I could probably be slightly more effective.
All right.
Yeah.
Same question about being ambassador, but to the Betazoids or the Deltans?
I don't know probably enough about the Deltans other than Ilea to know kind of what that would mean. I think it would be very difficult to be an ambassador to Beta Z, just because you can't keep anything close to the chest. I mean, you literally have to have complete transparency probably. And so I don't know. Do the Deltans have that kind of telepathic or empathic ability like the Betazoid?
No, our canon's a little murky with the Deltans because we do see, she does help with pain relief and
Right.
picture and stuff. So they have some sort of powers humans don't have, but I don't fully know what they are. Yeah.
So I guess just because of that, I would have to say the Deltans, because then it would be an opportunity to learn more about a people and a species that I don't know super well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I like
Same
that.
question for Ferengis or Klingons.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it would just have to be the Ferengi, because I don't know if I could survive. Well, I don't know. I guess the diet on both worlds would be, somewhat rough. That would be.
You might have
so
more
bad.
options on Ferenginar. I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think I would lean toward the Ferengi, just because I don't know. I find them, kind of fascinating. Sometimes I have to admit I get a little bit annoyed by the way the Klingons are, in some, some of the some of the rigidity. Now I think they've been portrayed in a much more kind of engaging way at other times, especially honestly in Starfleet Academy when they go and they show, I'm already forgetting the Klingon character's name, who is the cadet in Starfleet Academy, but they show his brother and his interactions with his father. And I think they feel much more real and much less kind of paper cardboard cutout in those portrayals. So like those kinds of Klingons, I could actually definitely be an ambassador to, but otherwise, I think I'd go with the Ferengi.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. And how about an ambassador to the Andorians or the Vulcans?
I think I'd go with the Vulcans.
Okay.
Yeah, just because getting to be around such, I don't know, just an iconic foundational race. They in some ways they just embody Star Trek. This is kind of like, you think about Star Trek, you almost immediately think about Vulcans. So it would be that.
When I say Andorians versus like Andorians or Vulcans, in my mind, I go back to the Enterprise era when it was kind of Captain Archer, and those Vulcans were a little different because their culture
they
had
were terrible.
reformed yet, and so that was different,
It's true. Yeah, they were pretty frustrating, and I think culture found them that way too. So yeah.
All right, you're working maintenance on a ship. Would you rather have to crawl miles through the Jeffrey tubes or go on the outer hull of the ship?
Oh man, I think I would get too much vertigo on the outer hull of the ship. I think I could deal with the Jeffrey's tube a lot better than being on the outer hull of the ship. I mean, the view would be amazing, but I don't know. I feel like you'd always have this feeling of falling off and vertigo. So I don't know if I don't know if I could deal with that. I mean, I feel like I get enough vertigo here on Earth that would just be that would be a problem.
Fair enough. Okay, and here are a series of who would you rather report to? Would you rather report to Lieutenant Tasha Yar or Lieutenant Worf?
Okay, that's a good question because they both had the same position. They're both sort of, very, tactically minded individuals, very, kind of defensive minded individuals. I would say, honestly, I think if Yar had more time in the series and they had time to develop her character more, then I think I would probably lean toward her. But I mean, I think Worf, as sort of one-dimensional as he was in the beginning, I mean, I think over the course of the series, he got to, you got to know a lot of facets of Worf. I think I'd pick him just because I think he's, a much more round character with, a lot more interest in my mind at this point, just because they were able to portray so much more about him over the course of not just one show, but multiple shows.
Sure.
Yeah.
How about between B'Elanna or Geordi?
Geordi, definitely.
Geordi.
Yeah. So like, love Geordi's approach to, he's like the quintessential professional. Like he's also so competent. I mean, I would love to learn from a Geordi LaForge in engineering. I mean, that guy, like I said, so capable, but yet so level-headed, but also just very personable. I think he'd be a great friend to have.
All right. Which number one would you like to report to, Una or Riker?
Oh, definitely Una. Yeah, number one, especially the way she's portrayed in Strange New Worlds. I mean, she is a rock star. I mean, I think she's actually just underrated. I mean, like the one episode that they have where she is on trial, was it Ad Astra?
Astra.
Yes.
Yeah. Just seeing like how she handled all that, and I think she'd be a great person to learn from and to basically just develop your own kind of Starfleet career under.
Awesome. And then Captain Archer or Captain Burnham?
Which Captain Burnham? Well, I guess there's only one Captain Burnham, I guess. By the time she got to be captain, she was a certain way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about Burnham as she was by the time she got to be captain, definitely her. I think.
But not as a first officer?
I mean, it's interesting because in Discovery, I feel like Discovery is like 3 different shows, and like she's so like it's almost like she's a completely different person in season 1 versus the final season, and she's to me she's very unlikable early on
in season 1.
I think she is not just unlikable, but I think she needs to learn a lot, and she needs to develop her own, her own sense of self, and just grow a lot as a person, when she's first introduced, which is great for a character arc. But as far as like, just wanting to report to that person at that time. But yes, she's not a captain yet. So I guess to really be responsive to the question, by the time she does become captain, she seems much more kind of comfortable in her own skin. She seems much more capable, much more of a leader, by that time. So.
Okay. And then would you rather serve on a space station or a starship?
Hands down, starship. Yeah.
Starship.
We got to be able to go
upper decks or lower decks?
Oh, in the upper decks or the lower decks? Interesting. Yeah, so much of Star Trek is portrayed from the upper decks perspective that's like almost kind of what you default to.
Yeah.
But honestly, like I'm kind of the person who doesn't like to draw a lot of attention to myself, or that sort of thing. So I think having the comparative obscurity of a lower decks position on a starship would be like really ideal. Yeah, really ideal.
Okay, nice. And then do you consider yourself a Trekkie or a Trekker?
Right. I never really thought about that too much until you guys were asking this question. I mean, I've always just defaulted to Trekkie. And I know, like, back in the day, this was a thing, like, when the early Star Trek conventions happened and before the Star Trek fandom kind of really grew, people, like, I think a lot of Star Trek fans were predisposed to call themselves Trekkers. I never really understood why the distinction really made a huge difference, but I just always thought Trekkie rolls off the tongue. It's comfortable. It's what I hear most people say. So for no reason other than that, I guess I would say Trekkie. Yeah.
Thanks, Kerry.
Yeah.
Following the crowd, that's fine.
Sorry, Trekker. Yeah, sorry. Well, I mean, but who knows? I mean, if we were having this recording, if we were doing this, back in the 80s or whenever, I might have said Trekker, because it seemed like, I feel like I could be wrong, but I just in my mind for some reason it was like more of a thing.
I guess I'm just an old soul. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, and I think they were, and as we've discussed, at least in the past, there used to be a certain mindset that when you said the word Trekkie or called somebody a Trekkie, that they're living in their mom's basement.
Oh, I'll
and,
embrace
never
the
seen
nerdy
light of day.
geeky.
Yeah.
And again, that's obviously not the case, but.
And that's part of it maybe too, is that nobody minds that as much anymore, because it's much more, acceptable to just be a geek or a nerd about whatever. I mean, like, I think that's not, there's not as much stigma to that anymore. So, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's hip to be a geek these days.
It's hip to be square.
Yeah.
We sound so hip even saying that.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, we've
fun.
appreciated spending some time with you. Do you have any final thoughts about Star Trek that you'd like to share with us here before we wrap up?
I don't know. I mean, I love the podcast and what you guys are doing. I love hearing people's, kind of stories and interest every week. So I definitely would love to see this continue. And I also want to see the Star Trek community just continue to grow. I want CBS and Paramount to get their stuff together so that they can actually come back and actually make some good shows that aren't going to be, cut short or canceled. I mean, we need some good new Trek, in the future as well. But yeah, I just want to see the train keep rolling.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that, honestly, Kerry. And Paramount, CBS, listen to all of us. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Again, it's a pleasure getting to know you and speak with you. And if you all have enjoyed the podcast, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. See you again. Live long and prosper.
Engage. Let the journey begin.